Hello, everyone. It's Dee. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. Thanks for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is your new moon in Taurus report for the new moon that is happening on April 22nd, 2020. It is currently April 19th, Sunday, and we're going to talk about our dark moon and Aries period. I'm going to talk to you about the new moon, the symbolism associated with the new moon. I'm going to give you the rundown of the whole month or the whole lunar cycle and how it is connected to Ramadan, which is Islamic. It is the ninth month in the Islamic calendar, how that's connected to the new moon and the symbolism. And practically, too, we're going to talk about Taurus, why it's connected to the throat chakra, and what you can, how you can work with that with this whole lunar cycle. I will tell you that this is going to be one of the most important months that we have in this year, I think. How we choose to really live through this next couple of weeks is really going to make or break. I don't want to say that it seems so fatalistic, but it really is going to impact. Yes, it will definitely impact how things start moving once we hit Gemini season. The sun will go into Gemini on the 20th of May. We'll have a new moon in Gemini on the 22nd. And when you look at the chart between now and then, there will eventually be a big pile up of energy in Gemini. And I'm going to show you that. And I've just been talking about this nonstop, like this duality, this polarization energy. We have to get right with it. We have to master it. This is the realm of the magician. And we will get plenty of time to do that on the surface as a collective when we get to that point in a month. So what we do now is we really literally dig into the Taurus stuff. And Taurus is the earth. It's the actual earth. It's the soil that the seed is planted in. It is the medium of our growth. And it's interesting that Ramadan is associated with this time of year. So I'm going to go over, sorry, that was weird. It's recording again. It's a very sensitive touchpad here. So let's go over I'm going to go over the transits for the month, the big ones. And then that way I'll give some context about how to really work with this energy, the new moon, because it's always about setting intentions, setting, seeds of intention of how we're going to move forward. And the new moon in Aries at the equinox really did set the stage for how the whole year is going to unfold. And now with the Taurus today, the sun moved into Taurus. And so right now we are at a point now where the focus goes into the soil, into the medium. And it's very, Taurus is the first feminine sign of the zodiacal calendar. It starts with Aries and now Taurus. It is the actual medium in which we grow. This is the resources around us. And so this is the actual planet. This is our resources, like financial resources. And of course, Uranus is here, and the new moon is almost conjunct Uranus, within about 2 degrees. So that's pretty close. And even not being exact, the moon will come right off the new moon and conjunct Uranus. And then within a day or two, the sun is going to come along and conjunct Uranus. And we know now, if you watched my episode about this, the Starseed Viral Journey, episode 5, I talked all about the 7 degrees of Taurus. It's the Good Samaritan. It is the Good Samaritan woman at the ancestral well. And I told the whole story about how that is about facing and accepting and embracing that which is the chaos in the name of love, and really accepting it and loving it. And that's how we come to a new quality of being, which is, Uranus is not easy. It's a stargate, that's for sure. It is a very rough ride, and that's where Uranus is right now. And so this new moon is giving us a chance to really strengthen our commitment and our trust and our surrender, because the degree of the new moon is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So, but before we get there and talk about the specific symbolism for the actual new moon, let's look at what's going to happen during this lunar cycle. And you can screenshot this, you can write it down, you can always come back to it. These are the big ones. And of course, every day I'm on the blog laying it all out, and then the weeklies as well. So we'll always come back to this, and there's so much more happening, but these are the big ones. Okay, the big ones. 4 planets are going retrograde just this month, starting with Pluto. Pluto goes retrograde. Saturn goes retrograde, all in Capricorn. I mean, Saturn's Aquarius, all the Capricorn stuff. Jupiter goes retrograde, right? The nodes are going to move into Gemini and Sagittarius, which means that the South Node is going retrograde, is already retrograde in Capricorn and is going to move into Sagittarius. So Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, all retrograde just this month, right? So all of that stuff that they went over the past couple of months in Capricorn, just like, you know, with Pluto just pulling the rug out from under us, and Jupiter just like expanding and expanding on things. And of course, Saturn just being like the paternal, like, I'm going to set boundaries for you, whether you like it or not. It's going to go back over all this territory that it's been through. And these are big outer planets. They don't move very quickly. So, I mean, things are not over. And if you are waiting for like this monumental moment of like, it's all going to get tied up and we're going to, and it's all, everything's going to be good. If you're waiting for that eventuality, I mean, you're probably going to be disappointed, but there are lots of good things to come. This is a time we should be excited. And I don't feel bad about saying that, because this is what we've been waiting for. And it's going to be a bumpy ride. Of course it is. We got Uranus at the well. It's just, you know, buckle up. It's for sure. So those 3, and then Venus goes retrograde in Gemini. So she's going to be in Gemini a lot longer. And this is really, you know, she's really just been showing us in our relationships, in our material resources, in what feels good to us, what doesn't feel good to us. She also knows what she doesn't like, that's for sure. Venus is just like, no, you know what I mean? She doesn't really, you know, pull any punches when it comes to like, oh, I don't like that. You know, that Venus is not going to like dance around those things. You know, she might be nice about it, but, you know, she might not be forceful. But the Gemini, so what we like, what we don't like, what's harmonizing, what's beautiful, what's not. And so a lot of time in this Gemini energy to get comfortable with it, you know, feel secure in it, especially when the nodes, this North Node, the head of the dragon, puts us into Gemini. And what's Gemini? Curiosity. It's about the mind. It's about the messages. It's about the structure of the language itself. We are going into territory that if we are headed with the dragon, facing the way the dragon's facing, not hanging onto the tail and getting like, you know, bashed all over the place and just like whipped around like crazy. If we're on the head of the dragon, we're going to be facing some serious polarization, some serious duality, and facing it and looking right at it and loving it anyway, like Uranus is showing us. And the moon and the sun are going to come right over that same point. There's a lot of opportunity here. So, and a lot of challenge. And Mercury is going to go into Taurus as well. And then it's going to go into Gemini. And Mercury is going to go through an entire sign in this lunar cycle. That is some fast action. So it's going to just blaze through Taurus, and then Mercury is going to come home to Gemini. So we're going to have even more Gemini energy. Once we get to here, and then to the new moon, it's going to be the sun, it's going to be the moon, it's going to be Mercury, it's going to be Venus in Gemini, Mars will be in Pisces, and then Jupiter, Saturn, Capricorn. Well, it probably hasn't left Aquarius yet. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, though, 4 planets are going retrograde. There's going to be more energy in Gemini than we've had, and we're going to have a full moon in Scorpio. Whoo-wee. So there's going to be a lot of territory we're going back over as a collective. Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, big transpersonal planets, large collective shifts, okay? We're going back over old territory, so lots of investigations probably, people really expanding within, especially with Jupiter, like really opening up their own conceptions about these things. Pluto just making it way more obvious that we didn't get it all the first time. And then Saturn's gonna go back into Capricorn. So there's just a lot happening this month. So understanding this will give some context to what's happening for the whole month. And so here's, this is the full moon. So let's look at today, because we do have a dark moon in Aries, and this, you know, conjunct Chiron, by the way, which is intense. See here, we got the moon, here's Chiron, we have the moon in late Pisces. This, the moon is going to go into Aries at midnight Pacific Standard Time, so overnight. So we have the moon here in late Pisces, really kind of, even now you start to get a sense with a late Pisces energy is that things are starting to, we've gotten to the end of the cycle emotionally. It's time to start differentiating back into other potential seed points. That's the end, you know, it's almost the rebirth process emotionally. We're getting there. So when the moon is dark, things are really not clear emotionally, intuitively. It takes more energy, I think. But the good news is you don't get a reflection of, it's just dark. And so there's no potential skewing of anything because it's a reflection. You can really get into the meat of it if you're working with it. And so where's Chiron? 7 degrees of Aries for Sabian symbol, I've been talking about the whole time, is a person existing in 2 realms at once. Chiron is us unraveling the victim savior mentality. The victim role is the wounded healer, right? We have to move past this, and this is why it's in Aries, because we still have to come to terms with the self part that's been wounded in order to move past this dynamic, which is what the Gemini time is going to be about, is that we need to, the consciousness of Gemini means that we are responsible for being awake to everything, and we have to take in as much as we're being offered mentally, and that is the realm of the magician. The magician doesn't not look at the shadow because it's uncomfortable. It's the magician looks at it all and realizes that it all is part of the whole, and that's how the magician is able to. I mean, Mercury is the only one of the Greek and Roman gods, Hermes, in Greek god, he was the only one that could go into the underworld and come back because he was fast enough. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about Mercury in general, because it's also in Aries. And so, but we're all talking about existing in 2 realms at once, the victor savior mentality that is attributed to Chiron. This is our work. So when the moon here conjuncts this point, it's going to become very personal. And if we've been doing the work, we might have a moment of like very distinct, intuitive clarity. It may not be here, but we will feel it in our bodies. The moon is the body, like our emotional body, our intuitive body. So when the moon comes around and it's still dark, you know, and if we're not working with this energy of existing in 2 places at once, as unraveling the victor savior mentality, if we're not doing that, then this could certainly trigger people, activate people. This is tomorrow, so I can really feel that coming potentially. We got to be aware of that. We have to be on top of our game. And beyond that, so the next day, that's today, so this is the 20th, the 21st, the sun is going to square, that's the 22nd, the 21st, okay. The sun is, before moving into the 2nd degree of Taurus, is going to square Saturn in Aquarius. Both of these are about electrical storms and lightning. One is about the natural consequence of lightning, which is just a discharge of energy, but they're, you know, it's a natural, it is part of nature. And then the Aquarian 2 degrees is basically getting yourself prepared to handle that electrical storm. You are able to hold the space. Aquarius is prepared for that crisis that is quick and almost immediate, like a flash of lightning. And Saturn, like I said, Saturn is just like the dad that's setting, or the parent, you know, the paternal parent, the boundary setting. You know, I'm going to get you ready to deal with these crises through this situation. If you don't see that happening, maybe you could start thinking about it that way, is that we're all being reinforced right now. And the sun being at that degree in Taurus is just like, hey, look, there's natural lightning. It is a consequence of needing to maintain homeostasis in terms of electrical charge in the atmosphere, right? It's just about the balance. Nature will balance itself, and it does it all the time with things like a lightning storm. That's all it is. So, but that's still, a sun square Saturn is very difficult energy to deal with. So this is Tuesday. And then we have the moon, also our dark moon in Aries is going to conjunct Mercury, right? You can see it already happened. It's going to be in 18 to 19 degrees Aries. And so the potency is just getting more and more, which means it's getting more and more intense. So the way we think about it, it's going to probably merge a lot with how we feel about it too. Again, the moon is very dark. If we're doing our work, we'll be able to get the most out of this energy. And if not, it can be very triggering. Oh my gosh. So the new moon, the 22nd, there it is. Our new moon, 3 degrees, 24 minutes. So this is just past it. It's going to be at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday. Now, the Sabian symbol for 4 degrees Taurus is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I know that there are many of you that are watching this that probably know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to this next cycle. Some people are like, I don't understand how you could think about the pot of gold at any rainbow right now, but that is the challenge for you then, to figure out how you can see the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Now, what is a rainbow? A rainbow is the visible light that comes, the spectrum of visible light that we have access to as humans, being refracted through water molecules in the atmosphere, and we get to see the individual aspects of the visible light spectrum. And we realize that the visible light spectrum and all of the electromagnetic spectrum is the same in terms of it's a spectrum. And it goes from a high frequency, which is the measure of the oscillation of waves, right? Light travels in light is photon particles that travel in a wave function. So one cycle is up and then down. Frequency is the measure of that in a certain time period. So violet is fastest, and then you go back all the way down. So the chakras, they correspond to the rainbow, that corresponds to an actual demarcation of the different frequencies of light that produce certain colors, right? That's what a rainbow is. You get to actually see the individual frequency representations of the visible light spectrum. Now, in the Old Testament, the rainbow represents the symbol of the covenant between Noah and God, that basically Noah did what God said, which was build the ark and put everything on it because I'm going to flood the world because it has gotten out of control. And what has transpired here cannot continue. But so that happened. The rainbow represents the covenant, the promise, and the faith that they have an agreement, and it takes trust on the part of Noah. And so the rainbow and it's also the rainbow bridge. And so it's the bridge to the pot of gold, in the sense that it is the communion with the natural world in terms of a trust and a commitment and a contract in some ways, that if you trust the process, trust the unfolding of nature, there is abundance, material abundance, there is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But you have to, there's two sides to a covenant. But the rainbow is, you get to see visible, like the actual representation of visible light. Does that make sense? Like, you don't get to just look, we don't get to just look at light. I mean, you can, natural light, you can stare at the sun, but you're not supposed to. But you see what I'm saying? That the rainbow is our opportunity to see the energy of light in in a form that we can actually behold. I think that's really cool to think about it that way. And that's when you think about it from a symbolic and esoteric aspect as well. It is showing that there is light there, in a way that we can see it. And it's a very basic process, the prism of water separating light into the spectrum, but it's we're linking nature, our trust of nature, to our physical and material abundance. And this is where the new moon is. This is where we are invited to set seeds of intention for the next cycle. Is this covenant, is this pot of gold, this rainbow. This is really potent, and I think is going to really set the stage for the whole lunar cycle in terms of are we going to be able to stay the course? Where's our commitment? And then when we talk about Ramadan, the month of Ramadan allows for a purification of the individual and the community with their own spiritual. It allows for people to deepen their spiritual relationship to in that case, in the case of Muslims, it's to Allah, but it's the idea that by abstaining, by restricting, you are strengthening, you're purifying your energy body, your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, for sure. You know what I mean? You're narrowing everything down to a very singular focus for a certain amount of time, and you have the commitment of the community to help sustain that practice of, well, for them, they don't eat, and they abstain from other types of behavior if it doesn't threaten your actual physical and safety and health and wellness to fast, obviously. But it goes through the whole month, and so we're going to really need this commitment, and we have to trust that what we're going to come out of it with is the pot of gold, however you want to identify that. With all these the 4 planets going retrograde, with the dark moon coming up to it, there is so much going on that we do really need. We need this commitment, and we need to recognize the covenant. However you need to recognize it, is that there is something here, and being able to engage with the practice of fasting and restricting yourself on certain things, and to deepen your practice. When we talk about Taurus, we're talking about the soil, the medium for which the seed grows. This also needs to be healthy. It needs to be fertile. It needs to be able to hold water, but it also needs to be able to provide an environment for microorganisms to grow, because that takes care of the soil, and for worms and all of that kind of stuff. It needs to be a healthy biome in order to allow for the germination of consciousness, which is Gemini. And we'll have so much time for that by the next lunar cycle, but right now is when we focus on us as the soil, as the medium. We have to really get clear with ourselves and make sure that we are creating a vessel, a medium, the soil. We're enriching the soil, we're purifying ourselves, whatever that means to you, because there's going to be so much going back over stuff. There's going to be there's going to potentially be a lot of triggers. There's going to be some surprises, maybe. There's going to be some really difficult energy that will really threaten to throw us off course in terms of this commitment to the medium, to the earth, right? Taurus is the actual earth. Venus is the divine feminine incarnated into physical material form, right? Beauty, harmony, comfort, security. I mean, we're with a full moon in Scorpio. Wow. I mean, there's definitely going to be some deep secrets that come up. There's going to be some serious shadow that's brought to the surface. There is no doubt. And so figuring out what is your commitment what is it that allows you to, what is the rainbow for you? What is that? What is that commitment and covenant with source or creator or the divine that is going to get you through this month as the the dynamics start shifting in a way that we will have no choice by the end to start mastering this Gemini energy, because it will be right in our faces. And right now is such a wonderful opportunity to, to participate in something like Ramadan. I'm not suggesting that you should co-opt anybody's religious practices without being Muslim. The point is, I mean, there's other, Lent is a perfect example too. Um, it's the idea of uh, narrowing your focus and purifying your body and your mind and your energy field in order to create the most fertile medium for that potential that potential for growth, which we will be brought to by the end of this lunar cycle. Oh, and the other thing I want to talk about, so we're gonna, is Taurus and why it's the throat chakra. So, and the color blue, right, is very much like the earth, and each chakra in the body, so 1 through 7, has a color associated. That is color associated with the actual rainbow of the visible light spectrum. Now, there are other chakras, and they are coming online big time, and some of them have been here for a while. So the Earth Star, which is below the 7th chakra, like rooted into the earth. And then there's a galactic chakra. There's like a solar solar system chakra and a galactic chakra and a universal chakra. There's a lot of energy centers that connect us. You know, it's very much concentric kind of circle thing. So when so Taurus is representing the throat chakra, and because with the throat we're able to actually, so we make sound, and sound travels in a vibratory frequency, just like light does. And all that means when you talk about hertz, 442 or 528 or blah, 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 all of those, they're wonderful. I use them all the time. I am very specific, and each one can correspond to a color that corresponds to a chakra, corresponds to an element. You know, this is how holistic medicine works. And it specifically will correspond to a frequency range where that chakra resonates strongly and in a healthy way. So the throat chakra is represented by the color blue. So we're looking at, it's the Schumann resonance is the throat chakra. And look up the Schumann resonance, or I'll put something in the description box if you don't know what it is. And it's been going crazy the last, especially yesterday. But it's the same frequency range, it's the same hertz as the throat chakra, and why it's related to Taurus, because Taurus is related to the earth. So material and material matter, actual material matter, that's Taurus. And what is matter? Well, according to quantum physics, basically matter is energy vibrating at a certain frequency, and it comes into form. So when we talk about matter, physical material, and we're talking about the law of attraction and manifestation, we're talking about these principles of vibration, creating, being responsible for the creation of matter on a universal level. So sound moves in a vibratory frequency, so does light. Light moves at a vibratory frequency. So when we sing, when we chant, when we tone, when we speak, when we laugh, when we cry, all of these things, you know, there is a sound, there's a frequency pattern associated with making sound, and frequency patterns are responsible for matter being created, which is Taurus. And so when we use our voices, we are in the process of creating something real. We are manifesting literally when we use vibration, and our sound is one of the main tools that we are able to work with changing vibration. there's a book, Terence McKenna, he wrote many books. The book, Archaic Revival, I believe that's the name. My God, I can't even remember the name, but as he was talking about how his journey through the Amazonian rainforest to go to meet these shamans, essentially, and he was still early in his research, but not early enough that he wasn't taking psychedelics at that point. But one of the things, yeah, because the story I'm about to tell you is about that. And he talked about how he had taken the mushroom, and what through a series of visualizations, what he saw and realized is that he was able to see sound, because what he was seeing was the vibratory pattern of the sound, and it had a geometrical shape. And so that's like a whole other sacred geometry conversation, but it's very much related. But what I'm talking about is, why is the throat chakra Taurus? Because it is sound, it is the organ, it is the chakra that has to do with sound, and that has to do with vibration, and vibration is directly connected to material matter. That is, and it doesn't matter if it's light vibration or sound vibration, energy vibration, it's all the same aspect of using vibration to create. And so it's going to be really important during this time that this area is kept clear and very strong, because once we get to Gemini, this is where we are able to, this is the realm of the magician at this point. The magician knows how to use that vibratory frequency to create. Right now, we are tuning, we are strengthening, we are toning, or we're healing, whatever we need to do in this area that will correlate to our own body as well. And the body of the earth, the Schumann resonance, is the same as the throat chakra. This is really important. And there'll be many of us that will continue to speak, and there'll be people that need to express their throat chakra in other ways, but we do need to protect and to strengthen and do whatever we need to do here, because this is one of our major tools for making actual change to reality. And Uranus is certainly helping in Taurus, there's no doubt, but this is going to be amped up considerably with this new moon, pretty much right on top of Uranus. So there we go. I think that's enough for now. Let me know if you have any questions. There are lots of 700 and blah, blah, blah hertz of the Schumann resonance for the throat chakra, or 783 hertz. I can't remember exactly what it is anymore. The Schumann resonance is 7 point something. It's between 7 and 8 hertz. And so you can take that and multiply it by 10, by 100, and you're still getting the same baseline of vibration that is for the throat chakra. So it just depends on how much frequency you actually need. There's a difference between 7 hertz and 700 hertz, because that's how much the oscillation is moving per time period. And so the more oscillations in a time period, the higher the energy, right? That's what that all means in like physics. So, and that's how it relates to energy medicine. And anybody who is a professional energy medicine person understands that that's what that is. And eventually we're all going to understand it, because it's going to be integrated into our healthcare system. Healing will not just be a chemistry and biology thing anymore. Physics will be completely entered into this. And if you want to know more about that stuff, I would check out Bruce Lipton's work. And he's getting a lot of media attention in some ways right now. His interview on London Real was really good, and he's got so many, and I'll link something very specific in this too. He's got a lot of stuff on YouTube, and he is a really good person to follow that has a very deep and accomplished scientific background, and as a researcher and as a professor, and his conceptualization of how energy medicine and consciousness are all connected is really, really amazing. So I would check that out. Okay, everybody, that's for the new moon. Let me know if you have any questions. Everything you need is in the description box below. I am taking clients by donation right now for readings. You can book, you can just go to Catalyst Energies on Facebook and you can message me there, or you can message me directly through email and start a correspondence. And I'm doing readings by donation, sending people recorded videos kind of like this, but tailored to them specifically. And sometimes using more intuitive tools as well, depending on what's going on. But I am doing them by donation right now because of the situation we're in. So everything is there. Have a great new moon. Check out the blog. I update daily there about the astrology, so you get way more personalized daily, because everything's shifting. It's so fast. It's shifting so fast. But one of the consistent things about astrology is that you can work with the cyclical energy that is provided there, regardless of how the timelines are like shifting dimensionally, right? Uh, yeah. And remember, dark moon right now in Aries. Just be mindful of that. Temper's flaring big time. Protective strategies. Um, that's definitely a big deal right now. So, okay, guys, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at my notes to make sure that I got everything. Yeah, we're doing great. We're doing great. Remember, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I'll talk to y'all soon.